OpenAI has been hacked. What does this mean for their partnership with Apple?
Hello and welcome to the All Future Podcast. We talk about all kinds of tech on this channel. If you're enjoying it, please consider subscribing or watching more videos or just leaving a comment, hanging out. I don't know, whatever you guys want to do. We appreciate you being around.
Thank you.
Today, we have kind of a smorgasbord, if you will, of topics related to Apple AI, stealing all of creative music ever made to make garbage music, I guess. So all kinds of things.
I can't wait for that one.
Yeah. And when I saw, I was like, oh, I bet Ryan's got something to say about this. So let's get into it. First up, OpenAI getting hacked.
Yeah.
What's happening here?
It was a very interesting thing to see. OpenAI was definitely hacked last year. And basically, they didn't really tell anyone. It was all kept internal. And now this news is coming out. And they did what got hacked and what leaked was some important info. And it was important info about how ChatGPT works and such. But ChatGPT itself wasn't hacked. What was actually hacked was messaging servers where employees were talking about the details. That's an important distinction, but it's still definitely not a great look. And this is something where I'm sure with Apple partnering, they had to disclose that this happened. I would guess. What do you think?
So their Slack or whatever got hacked or whatever
Yeah.
internal messaging system they're using. And it's interesting when they said, oh, the reason we didn't disclose this because it was only our own stuff and not any of our clients or customers' information. So I guess by law they didn't have to disclose that anything happened, so they didn't say it. This is just going to keep happening more and more. And this type of hack, which is not like Mission Impossible style breaking in to get the source code to OpenAI, but just, softball kind of getting in and seeing what employees are talking about. That's going to become super common and already is super common. But like if as a former person in intelligence, I will tell you that this is the way to get information from people. It is never Mission Impossible Tom Cruise crawling through, air conditioning vents to steal like a floppy disk or whatever. What it really is people usually through social engineering having, revealing some kind of password or allowing some kind of exploit to get on their machine. And then again, through people being people and being a communicative species as we are.
Yeah.
People just listening and gathering a lot of information like that. What you would call this in the military is poor OPSEC, operational security, which is, if you have something secret and important, don't talk about it in unsecured ways like a Slack channel. So, I don't think necessarily Apple or any company is super concerned about this because it wasn't really the actual a source code getting hacked, But it just goes to show that there is an active, hostile cyber presence that is constantly going to be trying to get this information.
Yeah. Apparently, in that regard, back in May, they talked about how they had I think, like 5 different covert influence attempts trying to get into their models with deceptive activity. So this is something that's going to be happening across the board, but it is very much happening at ChatGPT, and they're having to prevent it and work against it. And then this is the example of when it actually kind of failed, just not directly as we're talking about.
Yeah. And 5 covert attempts that they know about.
Yeah, that's very true. So 5 ones that got far enough for them to even recognize it was happening. Right?
And especially something like OpenAI. I mean, they have the most sophisticated kind of cyber attacks in the world are probably being focused against them from both other companies and from nation state high level intelligence organizations trying to break into that. Good luck, guys. Good luck.
With this kind of thing, I always wonder as well how much of it was a hack versus like a stolen password situation, because I feel like those terms get mixed in all the time.
Again, it's rarely some kind of like, oh, Unix, I know the system, and they're like, it's almost always. I'll tell you guys right now. Do you want to hack a foreign power? Here's how you do it. You make a profile of a reasonably attractive but not too attractive 25-year-old woman. who is suddenly interested in whatever weird engineering expert happens to have a password to some secret machine, and then you catfish them and eventually send them some kind of thing of like, here's these new pictures I took that have some kind of backdoor access keylogger or something like that. This is what happens every single time. It is rarely through the skill of hackers and more through the just complacency and stupidity of users.
Yeah. Like I remember that happening with iCloud leaks. Like that was
Yeah.
a big thing. And of course, not great. And we want to have security for that. And it's important to turn on two-factor
Yeah.
and all of these things. But yeah, it was like it's not technically a hack. Like you actually kind of gave your info away.
It's a loose definition of a hostile intrusion into a digital thing, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like, it's not someone really doing something super cool looking. It's really just people being dumb and lazy, and that's what happens every time.
Yeah. So definitely something we will be hearing about from every company. I mean, we just heard about the Microsoft recall being hacked. Anytime there's anything with Apple, we're going to hear about it. All of this stuff because people want to see AI fail, and also people want to see it succeed, but also are raising very legitimate concerns about security. So, what else is going on with AI this week, Matt?
Another to one kind of sad dystopian thing to the next almost. I don't know. But the investment company app Robinhood. I don't know how you would describe them really. They're a company that has an app, I guess, and
Yeah.
retail investment is what they're doing, which I mean, it's like kind of average people can get Robinhood and go invest. Has acquired this company Pluto, which develops AI for financial markets. And this is something we've talked about a lot. Is one of the prime use cases of AI is in the financial world, and financial stuff at the higher levels is already extremely computer operated. With doing trades in fractions of a second and all this kind of stuff. But there's tragically, for these guys that want to squeeze every single penny out of everything, there's still too many humans in the loop.
Yeah.
So their kind of sales pitch for this is, hey, we're acquiring this AI company that's going to allow, it's going to run all these systems. So if you're an investor and you tell it about you, it goes, oh, here's the type of investments you should make. Let me make a customized plan for you, which is kind of cool. Like it's taken what really you would have to pay for some kind of, wealth management guy or some kind of stockbroker kind of person to figure this out. So all this is cool. And I like that they're putting it in the hands of kind of regular people can start to access this stuff to maybe level the playing field or something like that. But anytime there's just computers and AI and financials and stock market stuff, I just get a little icky feeling about the whole thing. I already feel icky about the whole thing. I say this as someone who is been heavily invested in many things for many years. But as happy as I am that they've made me money, it makes me sad that that's how money gets generated now. So yeah, cool, I guess, but but I don't know. Overall, kind of got a weird feeling about it.
Yeah, some of the specifics it lists as analyzing factors is that it's analyzing risk tolerance, investment goals, and historical behavior, and the platform offers highly customized recommendations. So those are just specifics on the broad thing that we're talking about. But essentially, yeah, it's like kind of a investment manager, but then it helps with things. But there's pros and cons to this. There's the pros that this is kind of bringing this to the average person, and this is kind of technology that Wall Street probably has already been dealing with on a big scale. And then the con is that it's cool that it's here, but it's always going to be behind because we're never going to have the power that all of these big firms have utilizing this technology.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the little guy's always going to be behind the big players in this world. But I guess if this is the system that is going to exist, and is the system that the only way to build real wealth is to invest in things and do all this kind of stuff, then cool. I guess I'm glad that it's going to be in the hands of more people. And so it's cool in that way. I guess we'll see how it works. It sounds kind of neat. I don't use Robinhood. I invest through other stuff. But yeah, cool.
Yeah. Very cool. Also, this is not financial advice in any way.
This disclaimer, not financial advice. Don't listen to us. We didn't invest in NVIDIA, so we are not smart investors.
Yeah. Even Tesla's up right now. I think.
Is it?
Yeah, like pretty big.
I own no Tesla.
I figured.
Yeah. So I didn't make any money today, I guess.
Yeah.
Next topic. Here's another thing.
This one I'm kind of excited about, so I'm curious what you are.
Yeah, this is really all three of these opening topics here are showing this kind of how technology is a technology, right? And depending on how people use it, makes it good or bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of those cases where it's like, oh, this is kind of interesting, kind of good, like could be bad too. I don't know. And that's AI health and the introduction of artificial intelligence into the health system. This new thing they're talking about here is an AI health coach. What do you think about this?
I'm definitely interested in this because in its like inception, it's not going to be that exciting and it'll make mistakes and it'll be something that you can't really trust. But in the long view, this could enable a lot more people to have really good healthcare and really good like day-to-day readings and metrics and understanding of what's going on without having to talk to a doctor that in some cases is increasingly difficult and hard to obtain and frustrating and all this stuff with insurance. But yeah, the details here are that OpenAI and Thrive Health announced a new partnership and they're creating a new company called Thrive AI Health. And it's devoted to building an AI health coach. And there's a bunch of details here, and the CEO of the company is DeCarlos Love, who was formerly at Google, Apple, and Athos, specifically working in fitness and things like Google Health on the Fitbit. And that leads me to think that this is going to end up being a physical product. But essentially, they're trying to democratize access to expert-level health coaching to improve health outcomes. That's their pitch.
Yeah, this seems cool. Like this is gonna we're gonna just need laws to figure this stuff out, right? Because should an AI be able to prescribe medicine, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think of the current bottlenecks in the healthcare system, and a lot of it is it's a pain to get an appointment just for the most basic things a lot of times. And I say this, I have stupid healthcare. Like I whatever, I'm like platinum, diamond, select or whatever, like the stupidest one. And I rarely really go to a doctor or anything, but when I do, I'm like, this should be easy.
Yeah.
Like, why am I giving you guys all of this money, man? Like it's supposed to be like I'm supposed to at least, if we're gonna go with the system of not universal healthcare, but pay to play healthcare or whatever, then me paying the most money, that should make me win it. But I'm losing too. Like I'm like, this is bad. Like the part of it, this thing that's supposed to work still doesn't work. So the healthcare system, especially in America, God, I mean everyone knows this. Like healthcare sucks.
Yeah.
But then the other thing with this is that is this going to be? I mean, obviously, in this current kind of iteration, it seems like it is being developed in a for-profit kind of way, though. Like, so that's like the flip of it. It's like, oh, like, well, I can get access to maybe health advice, health coaching, maybe prescriptions. I don't know, anything easier. But is this thing being developed for a thing that's designed to generate profit, right? And will the AI have a inclination to recommend certain things or something to generate more money or something, right?
Yeah.
And AI has no morals, right? So you could program it.
And we see that in the healthcare system itself with humans. So do you design it correctly? Hopefully.
One of the reasons I love the doctor I have now, because he's so mean to me. And he's just so honest all the time. Like one time I was just having this like weird pain in my side and I was like, man, like what's going on? So he's like, oh, you're probably fine. I'm like, what? And he's like, look, man, I could order you an MRI or whatever, and the radiation's gonna hurt you more than this. Like, I don't like. He's like, I don't make more money if you just like. I don't care. Like, I'm just telling you, you probably shouldn't get anything. You're probably fine. Just wait a week. And I was like, oh, dude, you're right. He's totally fine. But if I have an AI that's, and this is I'm not saying the AI is going to do this, right? But if it's designed, it loses that kind of. There's a double-edged sword to doctors in that because they're human, they are prone to make more mistakes, right? But there is also something to human intuition. And I'm not saying in like a supernatural way. I don't believe in like intuition like that. But the kind of common sense gut check that a doctor can kind of do and go like, well, all the data is showing this, but something doesn't add up here. Like my years of experience and just kind of seeing the person and reading all the millions of nuances a human can read that machines can't do yet. You can get to good results doing that.
Yeah.
And then AI obviously is going to not be able to do that. So, damn, I guess like all three of these topics, some pluses and minuses going on with this stuff.
Absolutely. One of the things that this specifically talks about is analyzing behavior change. And so it seems like that's going to relate to some sort of tracking system. So a lot of people have Apple Watches or an
Mhm.
equivalent nowadays, and I assume this is going to work with something like that, taking a bunch of data and seeing all this day-to-day stuff, analyzing it, having an AI really analyze it and tell you what's going on from a health level, which is good, and that's honestly better than you're looking at with most doctors.
Mhm.
So that's definitely on the positive. But yeah, I can absolutely see
Mhm.
what you're saying, that looking at data isn't always the full picture, and people can just kind of go, yeah, this
Yeah.
something it's not,
Yeah.
and guess right, about some major thing.
Yeah.
Um,
The-
so maybe long term it'll get there.
Yeah.
That's how AI works.
Yeah, yeah, it
But
keeps getting better. The thing is, what AI is really good at, though, is like ingesting like so much data, right? So
mhm,
I do think of like if something really had all my vitals throughout the day, knew everything I was eating, knew all my activity,
mhm,
it'd probably be pretty good at figuring stuff out.
yeah,
Like whatever, when I had that pain in my side, it would go like, "Oh, hey, dude, do you remember 2 days ago when you were lifting all those bags? Like you just probably pulled a muscle, right?" Or
yeah,
hey, like you changed your diet up and did something weird, or you stood up till 3 in the morning partying that day, like like
mhm,
so whatever. Like it could like figure out these things. Because I will say, after I turned 40, like I was like, I wake up sometimes and just I'm like, man, why does this hurt? Like, what the hell did I do? And it's like something 3 days ago or
mhm,
like whatever. So yeah, yeah, like that's the beauty of AI is the data. I do still like maybe a human common sense check in the loop, but it's gonna be able to do some interesting stuff.
yeah. So I'll hit this one, and then you can hit the other one because this is like each of our passions,
Oh, cool.
right? So this is a new thing. Directable AI video generation is coming
Mhm.
from a company called Odyssey, and they have a pitch, and they're basically a startup with a bunch of funding, and what they're trying to make is high quality AI, generative AI videos for Hollywood, and that is like very specifically directable. So they detail how there's multiple layers to this. It's not just one layer, and then it's very directable. It uses high quality geometry, photorealistic materials, lighting, motion, and yeah, their whole pitch is quote, visual AI must be directable.
Mhm.
And yeah, this is going to be coming. We already know this is coming, definitely like to replace CGI in some ways. But what are your thoughts on this as a filmmaker?
Thanks for calling me a filmmaker. That's a pretty loose term. I'll
Aspiring
take it.
filmmaker?
Well, I don't know. I've made some
Yeah,
commercials. I worked on film sets.
yeah.
Like
So
I've made films. I
yeah, so
guess. Yeah,
filmmaker.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Sure.
yeah. You're welcome.
So this is I will say their pitch and like their website is clearly designed to lessen the backlash from CGI artists and people like that. When you go to it,
Hmm.
it's all about like, hey, we're about getting people to tell the story they want to tell in the exact way they want to tell it. Here's the problem with current text to video models is that you see too much control to the model, right? You make that one sentence and it kind of makes its thing.
Hmm.
And their whole pitch is, hey, like we're gonna instead of just using one model, I believe they're using 4 separate models for different elements of a visual scene.
Yeah.
So there's like, oh, here's how the light works. Here's how the surfaces work in it. There's different things. So it's running these. You can change any one of those aspects of it to kind of get the shot you're looking for.
Hmm.
Is kind of their setup, which seems cool. But I will also say that I think just the regular text to video models are going to be able to do this pretty well too.
Hmm.
Like it's like oh yeah, take that shot and just make it with less clouds this time, and then
Yeah.
it would go do it, right? So, but I do like this. This is kind of pitched more as like a CGI plus, I guess. It's like, oh, if you need to create this scene in CGI, this will let you do it in a way that's a lot more controllable.
Hmm.
The footage from it looks pretty solid. Like you can see some weird stuff going on in it if you really go and look at it.
Yeah.
Like I've said many times, this is happening no matter what, right? There's
Hmm.
no getting around this. If you work in the arts or in a visual medium, AI is going to be making that content, or at least heavily involved in the creation of that content, right? Because it
Yeah.
makes no sense to have a bunch of CGI guys underpaid working crazy hours to try to whatever bring Princess Leia back to life or something for a 30-second shot, and it still looks like garbage, right? The true generative video AI, when it works, looks way better than traditional CGI.
Hmm.
Way better. And I'm a person who's like, I know there's a difference between good and bad CGI, and I know like when good CGI is almost invisible to the eye and you don't really notice it, right? But generative AI video can do things that are where you would normally notice the kind of seams in traditional CGI, where you go like,
Yeah.
oh, something's just not right on here. You know, the
Hmm.
light's not working right, something's not working right. AI fixes a lot of that.
Yeah.
So I think this stuff is coming. We'll see where this company goes. This seems like people who are just trying to raise some VC money and are going to make something that never really gets released. um, but yeah, this is the future. We're looking at a shot right
Yeah.
now of like these.
I pulled up this. It's at 33 seconds.
It's
Check
these.
out this hand.
That's pretty rough. That's pretty rough. There's like I don't know, 17 fingers. They don't. None of them look right. None of them are a thumb.
And like whatever's going on with this keyboard, every key is like a different shape.
Yeah.
So
This-
I don't understand how this shot made it into the promo.
Why put that in the demo?
Yeah.
Why put it in the demo? I guess that maybe they're like, oh, so people know that we're still working on it or something. We want to show that we're not infallible.
Yeah,
Whatever. This is
put it in the uncanny valley
crazy.
for us. I guess.
Yeah, crazy. And what the AI stuff is really good on right now is that kind of like what would be like second unit B-roll in a film shoot or something like that. The people are like, hey, go get a shot of the sunset over the desert, right? AI can do that pretty good now, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like a cool tool. I think this is probably the last time we're going to talk about this company. I think the other Sora and all the what Google's developing, all these other different models are going to well surpass this and be in consumers' hands way sooner. And that's what's going to rule the industry, I think.
Yeah. Do you still think it's going to be quite a while though until it's like, I don't know, it's going to be in a good form for a while to where it's actually humans directing these things and using them to create a story as opposed to like ground up AI?
Yeah. Well, right now you still need so much more of the human in the loop, and it just makes sense to have the human in the loop, and it doesn't hurt anything, right? Like if you look at like how if we look at it from like a cost perspective, like having kind of on a commercial shoot, like the creative director from the ad agency or something, kind of like running the visuals on it, or having the editor and the visual effects supervisor on like a bigger film or something do these kind of things. Like having those guys in the room kind of makes sense, and the things still generate enough money that it makes sense to pay those guys. I think where you're going to run the problem is that does it make sense to pay 50, 60 kind of just frontline CGI creator guys, like one guy who just does like the wire rigging and stuff like that on these models. Those guys are going to lose their jobs, man. Those guys are in trouble. Those guys are gone, I think.
Which is always unfortunate, but yeah, it is how the technology progresses. And speaking of unfortunate, this week we have a thing with YouTube. Do you want to explain this, and then I'll give my take?
Let's see. As the musician, let's see. So YouTube wants to pay record labels to train generative music from their tracks. I'm trying to look at camera, and like at the corner, I can see you just shaking your head. Like, yeah. So the idea would be that YouTube, whatever, pays these record labels. There's some record labels actually mentioned in the article, but I think that's neither here nor there. The premise is like, hey, we want to use these tracks so that we can have generative music probably as some kind of tool set built into YouTube. So if someone wants to have a background song in one of their videos and they're like, oh man, you know what? I really, really, really want this to sound like Def Leppard,
Yeah.
but they don't have the $10,000 to get, pour some sugar on me in the video. Like you have the AI make a song called Pour Some Syrup on Me, and it sounds almost the exact same. These are called sound alikes. Like people use this stuff all the time in the industry, but they in the past have been made by humans. And this is making it with AI. Buddy, as a guy who makes music, where are you at on this?
Well, as a general thing, I'll say that it's funny because if you're quite pro AI, just think about AI coming for your specific craft or field, and then you can discover how you feel. Your feelings are a little more nuanced, I guess.
You're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose my job.
But I have a bunch of thoughts. First off, just I understand what this is starting as like, oh, I can just generate some background music that's the vibe I need. And that's essentially replacing like stock libraries. You can go to these stock libraries to get stock music. We've all probably used it at some point in videos in the background because it's royalty free, so you don't have to worry about copyright or anything, and you're fine to use it, and you get something that matches the general mood that you're going for. And this is like the next level where you don't even have to search for it, you just generate exactly what you want. So I understand that, and that's like kind of a cool idea, but that's of course putting people who make royalty free music out of work in that case. And then there's just the fact that they would be training on real music from record labels, and the record labels might make a deal here. Kind of feels like a thing from the past where Napster came along and kind of was wrecking the industry because everyone was just illegally downloading music. And then this was at a time when you bought CDs. Like,
I remember that.
you paid $10 to $15 for a physical CD. And now you pay $10 a month for all of music as a whole. So that did that, and then Apple came along and did iTunes with 99-cent downloads, which in a sense kind of saved that, made people go for the thing that's still paying. You're still paying for it. But then obviously that kept going, and now we're where we're at with streaming. So I just feel like, why would the record labels make a deal in this case? Like, what is their incentive to do this?
Dude, R.I.P. musicians, buddy. Sorry, but I think there's a few things here. One, the problem is there's no real such thing as a record label anymore. There are multinational corporations owned by investors with multiple conglomerates involved in them.
Yeah, I mean, Sony Music, Warner Music are the main two that we're talking about.
There you go. Here. So companies that are owned by companies that are owned by companies that are owned by huge capital firms like BlackRock and stuff like that. So their job is not to even promote music, right? Their job is to make the stock price go up. And yeah, this is the continued devaluation of art, which has been happening for a while now, and the commoditization of it. Definitely in the music world. I mean, the music world has the most like stair-step clear example of this that you just laid out, right? From like having to pay for an album to, people are kind of starting to illegal download songs, to kind of iTunes kind of saves it with their 99 cents to buy a song thing, which still kind of worked out. The math still worked out to about an album cost. The album usually, 15 songs or something. So it kind of was the same zone. But then streaming just wrecked all of that. Yeah. And you probably know way more about this than I do, but I know people who I think are what I would say working musicians, like yourself, right? Who are on tracks and things that are streamed and who have songs that are listened to 100,000 times and get nothing from that. And what I don't mean actual nothing, but I mean fractions of pennies from these things. And where it used to be, man, if I got 100,000 people to listen to my song, it used to at least cost them 99 cents to do it. I would have made some money there. Yeah. Right. And even the, old, it just completely broke down that system. Yeah. Right. Which is a bummer. Right. And this seems like it's just going to do it more. Like, even if they're like, don't worry, artists, we're going to pay you for this AI scraping service.
It's going to be a fraction of what is already a fraction.
Yeah.
Because right now, if you're an artist, your Spotify plays that you get, it's like fractions of a penny is what you earn. So you have people who like get a decent amount of plays, not like these huge artists, but a decent, good amount of fans listening to your music, and they don't actually make much money at all from the streaming. That's kind of like a loss leader for going on tour or for other things. And it used to be that you could make an album and actually earn your money back from creating it. And then but that's in general, that's happening across all art, as we're talking about.
No, for sure, right? And I get there's the argument that's like, oh well, the reason that musicians used to be able to get paid so much is because they were generating that much money, and now these things don't generate as much money. Like, you're still getting the same percentage of it. It's just that the money is just, the math doesn't flow right if you're the company now, right? But it's a system of our own design, right? And we have so devalued everything in this in our society, right? We talk about this all the time about how whatever, like the amount of content you can get for paying, one of these streaming services $10 to $12, $15 a month is insane. It's insane.
It is.
Right? Like $15, like it used to cost me, I think, $2 to $3 to rent a movie from Blockbuster, right? So if like for the weekend, right, we're renting 3 movies and buying a thing of popcorn there. We're like $20 in, and we've gotten 3 movies to watch.
Yeah.
Whereas like now it's like, oh, like here's every movie ever made for $10. Like that's it. But it has, I think, it's been good for consumers in the short term, but it's going to be bad for consumers in the long term because what you're doing is knocking out kind of the people who used to be able to make a living doing this, not necessarily get rich, but make enough money to keep doing it and make something cool and make something interesting.
Yeah.
And now there's no incentive to do that, right? Like you see this in every form of entertainment, but the movie world, right? Like if you're not making a Marvel movie, right? Like you got to make a $1 million horror movie or something. There's no $20 million adult drama anymore. Like these kind of things that used to make money and do well because we devalued content.
Yeah, and we see it with things like Spotify isn't even profitable yet. So like they've completely destroyed
they
this
have
industry.
to undercut everything, and then they're like, "Oh, sorry guys."
Yeah, and they're gonna probably have to raise prices for themselves and not be raising like for the artists. And then that's probably a part of why AI generated stuff like this is coming. Even if right now in its form it's like background music, it's like we got to figure out a way for us to be able to make music for free so that we can actually
we're selling it so cheap I can't afford to pay musicians anymore to make it. I need an AI to make it.
Yeah. So it's very sad, but if you want to listen to stuff I've played on, I'll put a
there you
playlist
go
in the
a
description.
little plug here at the end of the video. Yeah. It's pretty good stuff. I like some of your new
Thank you.
I'll give you a plug, man. He's been playing with the Jeff Goldblum band. They're playing some cool stuff. You can see some videos online and stuff. It's pretty rad.
Thanks. So the last one, real quick. Essentially, Nintendo is a very specific company, but they have said because of intellectual property rights, they're not going to be trying to use AI, at least for the meantime. So that's pretty interesting to see them kind of just avoiding it. But it also kind of makes sense for Nintendo's business model. Like they can just make another Mario game, and
Nintendo's always weird anyway, right?
Yeah.
They're like doing these weird art projects, and then making these like insane consoles that like don't make sense, but then somehow everyone loves them or hates them. I guess it's all or nothing with those guys.
Yeah.
But I do think it's funny that it's not like, oh, we don't care about the artistry of it. We just don't want to get sued, so we're just not going to deal with this.
Yeah. So maybe we can all take a lesson from Nintendo and make our stuff weird enough to where we're like, AI doesn't even matter.
Yeah, screw it.
Yeah.